It's 1987, and there's a script sitting on a desk at 20th Century Fox. The title page reads "Nothing Lasts Forever." It will eventually become Die Hard. But right now, it's a problem. The studio has a shooting date, a budget, a director, and no star. Because every major actor in Hollywood has read this script. And every single one of them has said no. Schwarzenegger passed. He told the studio he wanted to do comedy. He was making Twins with Danny DeVito. Stallone passed. The script felt too close to Rambo trapped in a building, and he'd already done that character into the ground. Harrison Ford passed. Clint Eastwood passed. Mel Gibson, Richard Gere, Burt Reynolds, Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, all passed. The list kept growing. The role kept sitting empty. And here's the detail that makes this story stranger than fiction. Before any of those names were even considered, the studio was legally required to offer the role to a 73-year-old man. Frank Sinatra. Because Die Hard was adapted from a novel called Nothing Lasts Forever, which was a sequel to The Detective, a 1966 book that had already been turned into a film starring Sinatra in 1968. Fox's contract obligated them to offer the sequel to its original star first. Sinatra, understandably, declined. He was 7 decades old and long past his action days. But the contractual offer wasn't a courtesy. It was law. And it delayed the casting search by weeks. Producer Joel Silver was running out of names. Director John McTiernan had a vision for the character, not a muscle-bound Superman, but an ordinary cop, flawed, tired, scared, bleeding. The kind of guy who cuts his feet on broken glass and winces. The kind of guy who talks to himself in air vents because he's terrified. But every actor they approached was built for the opposite kind of movie. They wanted a human. The A-list kept sending them monuments. Then something happened that had nothing to do with Die Hard at all. 3,000 miles from Fox Studios, on the set of a romantic comedy drama called Moonlighting, actress Sybil Shepherd told production she was pregnant. With twins. The show, which had made its male lead, Bruce Willis, a household name on television, shut down for 11 weeks. Willis was suddenly available. And Joel Silver picked up the phone. Willis had exactly one film credit. A mid-performing comedy called Blind Date. He was a wisecracking TV actor known for charm, timing, and a receding hairline. He was not anyone's idea of an action star. When the offer reached his agent, Willis initially said no. He didn't think the schedule would work with Moonlighting. But the pregnancy changed everything. 11 weeks was just enough time to shoot a movie. McTiernan's girlfriend, and this is the kind of coincidence that sounds invented but isn't, ran into a representative from CinemaScore at a dinner party. CinemaScore was the company that measured audience reactions to film stars. McTiernan asked them to analyze whether Willis in the lead would hurt the film. Their data came back neutral. Not positive. Not enthusiastic. Neutral. Casting Willis would not have a negative impact. That was the green light. 2 weeks later, Willis signed. The salary, $5 million. The number detonated across Hollywood like a bomb. $5 million, for a television actor with one moderate film credit. Alan Ladd Jr., the chairman of MGM, told the New York Times it was destabilizing for the entire industry. Entertainment lawyer Burt Fields said every one of his clients would now demand more. It was the most significant salary jump since Dustin Hoffman received $5.5 million for Tootsie in 1982, and Hoffman had been a 2-time Oscar winner when he got that deal. Willis had a Golden Globe from a TV show. The industry consensus was simple: Fox had lost its mind. But the dominoes were only beginning to fall. Because now Willis had to actually make the movie, and the conditions were brutal. For the first 2 weeks of production, Willis was still contractually obligated to Moonlighting. He would shoot the television show for 10 hours during the day, drive to Century City, and arrive on the Die Hard set after dark. McTiernan filmed around him. Screenwriter Stephen D'Souza, brought on to polish Jeb Stuart's original draft, used Willis's absence to build out the supporting characters. Holly's housekeeper got more scenes. Reporter Dick Thornburg got an introduction. Sergeant Al Powell's scenes with other cops were expanded. The film was literally being rewritten around a lead actor who wasn't there. And this is where something accidental became something essential. Willis wasn't performing exhaustion on camera. He was exhausted. The guy stumbling barefoot through Nakatomi Plaza, bleeding and muttering wisecracks to keep himself sane, that wasn't entirely acting. McTiernan saw it and leaned into it. He and Willis made a decision that would define the character. John McClane is a man who doesn't like himself much but is doing the best he can in a terrible situation. That's not a line from a studio notes meeting. That's two artists watching fatigue become honesty on camera and choosing not to hide it. Meanwhile, the film still needed a villain. Joel Silver and McTiernan had seen a play on Broadway, Les Liaisons Dangereuses, and in it, a British stage actor named Alan Rickman played a seducer so refined, so magnetic, that he made cruelty look elegant. They wanted him for Hans Gruber. There was one problem: Rickman had never been in a film. Not a single one. His agent told him opportunities like this didn't happen. You don't arrive in Los Angeles and get offered the lead villain in a studio tentpole within days. Rickman was skeptical. He read the script and didn't understand why anyone would want him in it. But Silver's energy was persuasive in the way that a freight train is persuasive. Rickman signed. On set, Rickman and Willis discovered something unexpected: chemistry. Not between their characters. McClane and Gruber spend most of the film separated by 30 floors of steel and concrete. But between them as performers. They decided that if the two characters could develop a strange, almost intimate relationship through their walkie-talkie exchanges, the final confrontation would carry real weight. Two strangers who knew each other's voices before they ever saw each other's faces. That was the idea, and it transformed the film from an action set piece into something resembling a duel. Then de Souza overheard something during a break that changed the entire script. Rickman was doing an American accent, just for fun, entertaining crew members between setups. And he was good. Disturbingly good. De Souza realized this could solve a problem Silver had been pushing him on. They needed a scene where McClane and Gruber actually meet, face to face, before the climax. If Gruber could disguise himself as an American hostage, the meeting would work. The scene was written in days, slotted into the middle of the film, and became one of its most iconic moments. The moment Hans Gruber pretends to be a terrified office worker named Bill Clay, and McClane almost believes him. None of this was in the original script. It was invented on the fly because an actor happened to have a hidden talent, and a screenwriter happened to be listening. Fox Plaza, the 35-story glass tower that served as Nakatomi Plaza, was 20th Century Fox's actual headquarters. And it was still partially under construction. Some floors were unfinished, which was perfect for staging explosions and gunfights in raw concrete spaces. But other floors were fully occupied by lawyers, executives, and administrative staff who had to work while controlled detonations shook the building above them. McTiernan later said the crew had to periodically run downstairs and apologize. Fox charged its own production company rent for using the building, as if the film crew were just another tenant. They also billed themselves for a sidewalk guardrail destroyed by an armored vehicle during filming. The stunts carried real consequences. During the scene where McClane shoots a terrorist from beneath a boardroom table, Willis held the weapon compressed against his chest. The blanks McTiernan ordered were deliberately louder than standard. He wanted the gunfire to feel visceral, not cinematic. The result: Willis suffered permanent two-thirds hearing loss in his left ear. It never recovered. He never spoke about it publicly until years later. In another sequence, Willis's stunt double was supposed to slide down a ventilation shaft and catch himself on a lower opening. The stuntman missed his mark and fell further than anyone intended. Editor Frank Sinatra watched the footage and made a decision: the unplanned fall looked better than the choreographed version. The accident stayed in the final cut. What audiences see as a heart-stopping moment of McClane barely surviving was, in reality, a stunt that went wrong and nearly injured someone. And then there was the fall. The climax of Die Hard required Hans Gruber to plummet from the top of Nakatomi Plaza in slow motion. Rickman agreed to do it himself. No double. They rigged him 25 feet above a blue airbag, with a camera shooting at 270 frames per second to capture every micro-expression on his face. The plan was simple. A team of stunt crew would hold him suspended, count to 3, and release him backward. Rickman would fall, the camera would catch his face, and they'd composite the LA skyline behind him in post-production. Stunt coordinator Charlie Pickerney had a different plan. He told his team, let him go on 1. Not 3. Not 2. 1. Rickman didn't know. The count started, and before Rickman could prepare, he was falling. The expression on his face. The widening eyes, the involuntary gasp, the hands reaching for something that isn't there, is real. That is genuine fear captured at 270 frames per second. It was the last scene filmed for Die Hard. If Rickman had been injured, or if he'd refused to continue working after the deception, it wouldn't have mattered. There was nothing left to shoot. Pickerney had calculated the risk. Special effects foreman Thane Morris later said Rickman was physically fine but furious about the trick. In later years, though, Rickman would speak about the stunt with something close to pride. If stories like this deserve to be heard, the ones Hollywood never put on a poster, subscribe. Because they buried this one for 30 years. The studio's lack of confidence in Willis extended all the way to the marketing department. When Die Hard was ready for release in the summer of 1988, the initial billboards and posters featured one thing: the building. Fox Plaza, towering against a dark sky, with flames pouring from its upper floors. Willis's face was minimized or absent entirely. The marketing team had determined that the setting, a skyscraper under siege, was a stronger sell than the actor nobody believed in. The competition that summer included Schwarzenegger in Red Heat and Eastwood in The Dead Pool, exactly the kind of stars Fox had wanted and failed to get. The industry was watching Die Hard the way you watch a car with bad brakes approaching a curve. Not if it would fail. When? It opened on July 15, 1988. Initial reviews were split. Some critics dismissed the violence, others found Willis unconvincing. But audiences responded to something the critics missed. They recognized McClane. He was the guy who gets scared, who bleeds, who makes jokes because the alternative is panic. He wasn't a monument. He was a human being. And that was exactly what McTiernan had wanted from the very first casting meeting, the meeting where every monument in Hollywood had said no. Die Hard grossed $140 million worldwide. It became the highest-grossing action film of 1988. It received 4 Academy Award nominations. It launched Willis into a career that would earn him over $250 million across 5 decades. It made Alan Rickman, a stage actor who had almost turned the role down, one of the most celebrated screen villains in cinema history. Hans Gruber was later named by the American Film Institute as one of the greatest villains ever committed to film. Rickman's first movie role. His first day on a Hollywood set. And he became a legend. In 2017, the Library of Congress selected Die Hard for preservation in the National Film Registry, calling it culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. In 2007, Willis donated John McClane's sweat-stained undershirt to the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History. A ripped, dirty tank top, hanging in a glass case in Washington, D.C., alongside artifacts from the Civil War and the Apollo missions. Years later, the penthouse of Fox Plaza, the same building where McTiernan's crew had dropped Rickman backward into the air and rattled the lawyers on the floors below, was renovated and given to former President Ronald Reagan as his post-presidency office. When Secret Service agents swept the floor before occupancy, they found something lodged in the carpet that no cleaning crew had caught. Bullet casings. Blank rounds from a movie that almost didn't have a star. From a film that Fox was so unsure about, they wouldn't even put the lead actor's face on the poster. The same poster that now hangs in film museums around the world. With Bruce Willis's face front and center, bleeding, defiant, barefoot. The man who was nobody's first choice. The man who only got the call because a woman he worked with got pregnant. The 6th, the 8th, maybe the 10th name on a list that started with Schwarzenegger and ended with desperation. And every single person above him on that list said no.